Okay, well, in anticipation of Halloween, we decided to go and find some of the spooky parts of Liverpool, and we're in the Bridewell. Fiona is here, who is the owner. I'll see you, Fiona.
Hello.
How long have you been here at the Bridewell then?
Well, we bought it in June 2019, so yeah, just over 2 years.
Right. Any particular reason that drew you to it? Because we're not just talking about a pub, we're talking about the old police station, and it's still got all of that kind of feel about it and everything. It's almost as if the place can be opened as a Victorian police station tomorrow. What drew you to it?
I think that was part of it. It's such a beautiful building, and it just, to coming out for a drink, it's just a completely different experience than you do in many other traditional pubs. We try to put traditional values in here, but with the added advantage that you can sit in a cell and try and experience what people did 200 years ago.
You can put Victorian values in here, can't you?
Yeah, we could, yeah, but I don't think they go down too well these days.
So, now obviously, you know, we're not here to talk about what is it word, but we are here to talk about some strange goings on, because when I've been here before, and there have been people with them saying there's some strange things going on. There was one particular individual who said to me that he was in one of the cells downstairs, and it may well be the one that you suggested earlier is the most active, and this guy claimed to have been lifted off the ground by around about 6 or 7 inches by some kind of entity. What about yourself? Have you seen or heard of anything that's happened here?
In the cells, we just have, I'm guessing it's that same cell. People sometimes just feel uncomfortable in there, but they don't really know why. They're happy with their company, their drinks are fine, but there's just a feeling in that room that, or in that particular cell, that they can't explain. And I think for us, generally the other one was because there's a grand piano upstairs, we've been sat in the bar when there's just been me and Dominic in the building, and we've heard the piano being played.
Oh no! What was it playing?
I don't know. we just went. We sort of thought, well, maybe it's something running on the keys, you know, maybe it's a pest.
Yeah.
And we came up, but it wasn't, because the lid was closed down, there was no way anything could have got onto it, so that spooked us out a little bit for a while.
Has anybody actually spoken to you, prior to being here, when you've been here, said, oh, I tell you that, been there, and so what have you?
A friend of mine ran this many years ago, and she claims to have seen and heard and felt uncomfortable in here, and she was here for about 2 years. Quite a lot of different things, and we haven't as much as she did, I don't think, but I don't know whether that's because obviously the last 18 months have been open and closed, so maybe we've not had that sense of continuity. But you certainly, when you come in the building in the morning when there's nobody else here, you do get very much a sense that you're walking in the building, as have so many people before and after you, and yeah, there's a definite sense of something around you.
Would you stay in there when you're home?
I have done. We live locally, and we couldn't get an off flat one night. We had to sleep here. So yeah, it wasn't great. The piano didn't, but it wasn't great. Yeah, we didn't sleep very well. There was a lot of noises, and we couldn't really explain.
Well, we've got some experts here from Haunted Scouse who are going to do their best to find out whether or not there is something in here. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Right, let's go and meet the guys. And here are those experts now. We've got Adam and Chris from Haunted Scouse. Hello, fellas.
I know you're right.
Haunted Scouse. How long did it take you to come up with that title?
Well, it was a bit of a joke between one was another paranormal group, and they're the Yorkshire Mafia, as they were, and the nickname was Haunted Scouse. And over lockdown, Chris and I got together, and the name kind of just stuck, and we rolled with it, and Haunted Scouse was born.
Right. So when did it all start for you then, Chris?
For Haunted Scouse?
Well, I don't know, paranormal, interest in the paranormal generally.
I mean, I've always been interested in it, but I think like a lot of people, being a man of a certain age, once Most Haunted came along, and the late great Derek Acora, and you hear that Scouse accent on something, and you think, I'll give this a go. Yeah. And it was just, it hadn't been done before, so you'd seen horror films and you'd I'd experienced things by that point earlier in my life, but Most Haunted came along and you kind of thought, it's really good, if I had the chance to do that, I'd love to give that a go.
It was a phenomenon, wasn't it?
It was amazing, I'd say, it was exactly the same for me, but when you're looking at the show, you're always having that doubt in your mind, like, is that real, but I think there's only one way to find out, and that's to grab your camera and, do it yourself, and that's what Chris and I do.
And that's the reason we're here at the Bridewell. Any of you guys been here before?
Never know.
It's the first one for me. I mean, I nearly turned up to the wrong Bridewell.
So tell us about some of the equipment that you're going to be using. You've got this very impressive array of technology here. Tell us about some of principal components that are going to be used, hopefully, in order to hear or find something, or hopefully see something tonight?
Yeah, the main thing that we use is called an S-Box, and it's an updated version of what it's called a PSP7, and that is, it's like a radio, and the radio is being detuned so that you hear the static, and a lot of train of thought is that the spirits can use the static energy to come through. Now the S-Box has been designed by paranormal investigators so that it can scan forward, backwards, different speeds, and we just think we've always got spectacular results with that by trying to interact with the history of the location, and that's where that comes into it. So the Spirit Box, the S-Box, is one of the main ones. We use a couple of different apps on our phones, one called Spirit Talker, which speaks words like an oculus. Our belief is that, apart from the fact we can't afford £1,000 for an oculus, the Spirit Talker is a word bank, and so the oculus is a word bank. So why is one thought given more credibility than another? When if you get the correct words through, obviously it doesn't always happen, but if you do, and you can put the relevance to it in the location, then the apps that we use do put that on as well. And then potentially, because of the age of this building, we also have our music box.
Which is, that's like a summer, right?
Yeah.
This opens, does it go on?
It does open. It will, let's have a look at it. Let's go to one.
Like spooky, isn't it? Right. And what would, the idea behind that, and what would be if you arrange a triggered object, would that be a
Projects, yeah. I mean, literally it was picked up from Llandudno in a charity shop when me and my wife went to Llandudno one weekend. And I mean, I love boxes, like I love the workmanship in it. And then when I found out it was musical, that was the bonus to it, that it was a music box as well. And we first used it on in St James's Cemetery in an outdoor location. We thought that's how we introduced it to our audience. And it was an instant hit. It became a third member of Haunted Scouse because of the way people reacted to it.
And then we took it to Peter Kavanagh, didn't we? Famously, that was when it really come to life, because we put it on and left it in a room, and we carried on in a different part of the pub investigating, and we actually caught it moving and sliding across the table.
Wow.
So obviously, I mean, Chris and I in the building, and Rita upstairs. So great bit of evidence that.
Yeah, I mean that's, we often say that may never get better for poltergeist activity because it moved away from the only door in the room. So a lot of people have given it a lot of relevance and validity because they've said, you mean a radio show, I forget what the name of it was, they discussed it and we just had to find the show because they tagged us in it. And their discussion was they try and debunk things and they couldn't because they said look at the way it moves away from the door.
Well, you caught some video.
It's on camera, it's on our Peter Kavanagh's episode. We've done 2 episodes of Peter Kavanagh's and it's on the first one from there. It's actually caught on a lock-off camera, sliding across, it twists and then it slides across the table a couple of inches. So it's 2 different movements, it's a twist and a slide over a period of about 90 seconds, but it's all captured on camera.
Well, that's great. Okay, well there's obviously more kits to discuss here, but I think it's probably best if we actually see it in a practical environment. So what is the first step that we're going to take in order to begin your investigation?
What we like to do is we put the S-Box on because we think it sort of charges the atmosphere a little bit, and then we try and feed off the words that come through. Hopefully we link through who might be talking to us or who might be possibly with us, and then we try and ask about the questions and the words that we get, and that we find it's a bit of a start, don't we?
Yeah, and it's good. I mean, it literally is. It's a conversation. And that's the other side of the conversation. So we're on this side of it, but if there's something else or somebody else in here with us, the S-Box is going to allow them to partake in the conversation, and different people will hear different things. You know, someone might pick up a word clearly, and others might not actually pick up that word. You know, but it's a brilliant piece of kit just to have that initial conversation to say, hi, we're here just to tell your story, we want to get to know you a lot better, you know, is that you're male, female, things like that, and see what responses come through. And it's the conversation starter, if you like.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's fire up the S-Box then.
Okay.
When we knock it off, because it's obviously about the introduction there. because of the nature of what we do. If we get
Do
something
you think they'll sit or?
I mean, I float and sit. And
you float, that'd be marvellous.
That's why I got him in the team. He's great. Yeah.
So what I mean,
So you just, when you hear, if you hear it now, you just don't want it to get across your
camera.
because it might be, or you might just hear as that, because it does get quite loud. So if,
But what I'll do, I'll put this on.
so you just, when you hear, if you hear it now, you just don't want it to get across your
camera.
because it might be, or you might just hear as that, because it does get quite loud. So if,
But what I'll do, I'll put this on, and then if you tell me what the balance is for yourself, and
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Where the fuck are we going like this?
it's just on the side there.
Which side? So we have sat down, we're upstairs in the Bridewell, in the dark, as is standard kind of paranormal investigation behaviour. We'll come to the reason for that in a short while. For historical confirmation here, should any information make itself available tonight, Chris Cannon from Hidden Liverpool is here. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, boy.
Is this a new area for you to move into, the paranormal?
I do have a passing interest in it because I am a massive sceptic, to be fair, but things have happened to me which I can't rationalise, so I'll say yes, I'm interested in it.
Right. What can you tell us about the Bridewell?
The Bridewell, where we are now. Right, we think it was built around 1840, 1850. Where the Bridewell system worked was that small jails, lockups rather than jails, were built in between 3/4 of a mile, half a mile away from each other. So if somebody got arrested in a port like Liverpool, for example, a cop has taken a drunk docker to be arrested, the chances are he's going to get jumped by other dockers. So he needs to travel as small a distance as possible. So the Bridewell system was set up that he'd never have to walk more than 1/4 of a mile. So he'd bring the criminal to be locked up for a short amount of time, maybe overnight, in a Bridewell. Now, this is one of the original Bridewells of Liverpool. There were a lot of them. There's only a couple left. This is probably one of the most well preserved. Now, what makes this building particularly special is that when Charles Dickens came to Liverpool, he came an awful lot, to be fair. When he came to Liverpool once, he was doing some research for a book here called The Uncommercial Traveller. Now, The Uncommercial Traveller was a set of short stories. And he was writing a story called Mercantile Jack. And for Mercantile Jack, he wanted to know what it was like for a normal person simply to wander around the dock areas in a really, really busy, dangerous port at night. Now, Charles Dickens was incredibly well known even then, so he would have been recognised everywhere. So the way he figured out he could do it without getting mobbed is to become a special constable. We weren't called specials back then, but we call them special constables for the sake of it. He signed on with Liverpool Constabulary for 1 or 2 nights, I'm not sure exactly how many, and we're not exactly sure, to be completely honest, where he signed up. But we do know for certain that the docks he mentions in Mercantile Jack were Salthouse Dock and Canning Dock. Now, the closest Bridewell to them is here.
Sorry to interrupt there. Are you recording anything at the minute?
We've got the camera just on them.
I didn't tap twice enough. If you heard it. It might be. Sorry, okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we know Charles Dickens as such a sworn as a cop, and the chances are, as I'm not 100% sure, but the chances are he was sworn in as a copper in this very, very building. Now, where we are, we're upstairs from the main bar area. We're actually in the old sergeant's living quarters. We don't know exactly what went up here. And downstairs, probably a lot more went on downstairs.
Keeps doing that. I don't know where it is. That noise. I'm about to say so.
No, it's annoying. But stop interrupting.
You're starting off already. Go on.
Yeah. So anyway, so we know Dickens was involved in this. That's what makes the place really, really interesting. But as a historian, what makes this place more interesting about the fact that Dickens is probably here is what actually happened here. Because this was a lockup for the main area of the docks. This was the busiest area around the 1950s for Liverpool. So this building must have seen lots of stuff. You know, dockers being arrested left, right and centre. Like, so the fact that dockers like a beer or two. You got the sailors. This was Sailor Town. You know, so you had sailors from all around the world. And sailors, especially the riggers, used to carry knives. The knife crime was massive back then.
Yeah.
Stabbings, beatings, murders. Anyone who was arrested would have been brought here.
Wow, well, that's a good way to start that, really, isn't it? So we know a little bit about the history, and who knows, maybe what you've just been saying there, if there is an entity, if there's something here, a spirit that's held there, might have picked up on some of the things you were saying. Are we ready to move into the investigation proper?
Yeah, definitely, if everyone else is.
Yeah. How do you want to start this time? Let's go.
Usually Chris will roll on the S-Box. We just ask if there is anyone here who wants to come and talk to us. We've got a device over here that we're going to turn on now. We'll ask a few questions. If you want to talk to us, then you can use the device in Chris's hand to come and say hello.
Okay. So Paul and Chris, I'm going to allow you to ask the first question in the hope that if there's a spirit here that would come through. Now, based on what you just said historically there, let's think of something that you can come up with. A nice simple question that could potentially prompt a response on the S-Box.
Okay, right. Knowing the history of the building, was anybody actually killed in here? We think the chances there probably was. Somebody bled to death or somebody has been beaten to death.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What? No. Tell Tom to leave us, thanks.
I was thinking they don't know.
That was a quick response.
Yeah, sorry, come on, let's have it.
So, okay, the chances are that somebody's been severely beaten and been brought in here, or been stabbed and been brought in here, and maybe have died in one of the cells, possibly. We don't have any records back then, but the chances are it happened because we know the sort of stuff that went on back then. We know there's a lot of beatings, we know there's a lot of stabbings. It was a very, very violent area. So, is there anybody around here now with us which might know about those times?
Somebody there, make yourself known to us now, speak louder that you are there, something like saying yes. Oh, wow. Can you tell us what your name is? Mister. Yeah, it doesn't sound like Mister. What was it, Mr. Who?
Who's John? Did you say Mr. Bouchon?
Yes. Oh, this is Mr. Bouchon. Here, are you happy with our presence?
Are there any sailors here? Any seafarers?
And the old dockers.
Outside of picking up on the radio waves that we've got there, is there anything else you can do for us? Is there any other way that you can communicate? Could you give us some kind of physical noise within the building? Is that possible to do?
There's a musical instrument in the corner of the room. Can you tell us what musical instrument it is?
That's the interest.
Actually, if you take the likelihood that Charles Dickens actually came to this place, is that a yes? Oh.
Yeah,
That's not
you don't have to be. I'm not going to talk to
Chris Kelly,
you. Just please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a likelihood that Charles Dickens came here. Yes, very much so.
I don't know, perhaps maybe you could shed some light on this, Adam. I mean, obviously Charles Dickens place it, but you tend to find in a lot of places with paranormal investigations is that the spirits that kind of walk around the building are associated with the building and perhaps have some kind of emotional connection. Is it possible that somebody with a passive interest in it may well manifest themselves?
I think possibly is, I mean, if you were going to pass over and go to an afterlife, wouldn't you want to come back to your favourite places that you went when you were younger or in at any time in your life? And looking at maybe this building, it could have been something that, like you said, with Charles Dickens, this could have been something that he really enjoyed, just walking the streets of Liverpool, talking to the people, and you know, there must be a reason why, as Chris was saying, he was sworn in here. Who knows, possibly it could be him, or even just somebody who's just come back for a drink or a look and just see what's going on with the building.
Okay then, what we're going to do at this point is I'm going to try and bring you know the musical box that you had before.
Yes.
Because even though it's put in a place of, you know, misbehaviour by adults, there is the possibility that some children might be involved in it. What do you think?
Kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling so far? This is your place, you've got to
I was
sleep
going to
in
say,
it.
just with children, obviously the sergeant lived up here, he was had a family.
Yeah, well that's a good observation, isn't it? Okay then, right, we are going to try the musical box. Just do, if you want to bring that over here, yeah, what's your story?
Do you want it on the table?
Yeah, leave it on the table. I'll open it. I'll play the keyboard. If you just close that down and I'll open it in a sec. Okay, so we have brought the musical box into play here. Beautiful ornate musical box which was picked up or was in London. We don't know much about the origins of it, though, do we, Chris? Do we know where it came from originally?
No history to it whatsoever, other than it looks like it's got an age to it, maybe 60, 70 years, you know, so somebody spent the design of it, it's been looked by somebody, so, you know, maybe that person was attached to it.
Okay, here's what we'll do then. These things typically would be associated with children, sometimes adults. I just want to know if there is the spirit of a child here with us at the moment. So I'm going to open this box and we'll see if you'll react to it. There's somebody with us now. Could you speak loudly? What is your name if there's somebody there? I'm conscious of the fact that there's background noise there, so I don't know what we can do on that. Maybe it might be better, because you know, obviously this place being associated predominantly with men. But there is the possibility of a family, because you mentioned there that the sergeant would live here. Can I ask that you would ask something, if that's okay for you?
What should I ask? Just
Asking if there's somebody here that would like to communicate with us.
is there somebody here who would like to talk to us? Someone who maybe used to live upstairs?
That was a quick feeling at the moment. I know we've got a lady here who doesn't particularly want to be on the recording, but you said how you feel personally at the moment.
I had a bit of a shivering moment when the little radio thing was on.
Have you done anything like this before?
No, not really.
Okay. What other options are, and I'm kind of going through this at a pace, but what other options have we got in terms of detection? Interestingly enough, I want to point out that we have a video camera with a night vision option on it, so I should say, so we will put this on the social media page. What can we do in order to, that you think might be able to generate a response?
What we have is an app called the Spirit Talker app, so we can turn that on, and it's just basically a word database. So we can just put it on the table, keep asking questions, and hopefully they could pick a relevant word that might link into the history of the building.
Okay, let's do that. And let's put up the spirit to talk about. Well, it looks like we've added a little bit more kit to proceedings here. The first thing that I'm looking at is, I know obviously we've got this app that we're going to be using, but we also have a very strange looking thing that I'll describe it as best I can. It looks like a Brill cream pot painted black with an area and some lamps, and it is called a spirit pod. Explain that to us if you would please, Adam.
So basically this is what is known in the paranormal field as a REM pod. So it emits a very small electromagnetic field, which if you or anybody crosses it, this happens. So you can see it lights up and it makes a noise. So what we would usually do is we would just put it somewhere, leave it alone, and then if anything does cross that field, there could possibly be someone here with us.
So this will work in tandem, I would imagine, with the word generator that you've got for us there, wouldn't it?
Yes, well I've just put it on now. One of the first words you can see on it says fret, and then we've had little just after it. So
threat, little threat.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just put that in the middle and it will speak now because I turned the volume up.
Right. Okay. Right, and listen, folks, let's all get in the zone with it. So I want everybody to take a deep breath, all that. Try and relax yourself. In fact, we'll go, even though we're in a darkened environment, let's go for an eyes closed arrangement here so that we can just literally only use your hearing sense and obviously your sense of temperature.
We were just talking about sense of
Relevance,
voice, sounds,
I mentioned senses and sound. The word sound came upon this.
That goes back to what I
Sorry,
said about
maybe not my
relevance.
So everybody close your eyes now. And if something, it doesn't matter what it is, if something comes to you and you think, oh, that's ridiculous, just say it because it might have some relevance. So we want to know for the people with us here, if you can communicate using this piece of kit here, just speak something, say something, and we'll see if this machine will interpret it for us.
4.
4. No. There's 6 of us here, so we can't be relevant to that. So, 4. What does 4 mean? What does 4 mean? Can you answer that question?
Roger.
Roger? Okay. We've got a name Roger, so let's go down the route of that. Would you do me a favour, please, Fiona? Would you ask the person Roger here, see if he responds to a female voice?
Is Roger here? Is Roger in the room? Roger, are you there?
Roger. Any names coming to mind?
Graveyard.
Graveyard. Graveyard. Okay. Right, it's recording a list of words that's coming out here. So we've got Roger, Graveyard, 4, sound. What do these words mean? What do these words mean?
Is Roger in the graveyard?
An interesting thing that just happened then when you spoke. And I don't know whether or not this will pick up on the recording. Because even you started speaking before the microphone came to you, yet you were in my ear. And when I moved the microphone to you, like away, you disappeared. That's how it went in my ears then. So what I was doing was reversed. I could hear you when the microphone was here, and when I put the microphone near you, it sounded distance. Are you interfering with the equipment we're using here?
Memories here.
You have memories here. Okay.
Could Roger be the police sergeant, possibly, who's here? Maybe that's the link there. There's memories here from where we are now.
I have a problem here at the moment, and I'll let one of you try it at the moment. The headphones are confusing. It might not be showing up on the recording, but my headphones are confusing where your voices are coming from. I've never experienced anything like
Scarlet.
this. Scarlet. Okay. Yeah, it's weird, it's difficult to describe this. It could be false, but it can't be false because the microphone is aimed in a position that it's doing the reverse of what it should be doing. You can't explain that with the headphones at the moment. Okay. Let's go back to an hour hours ago to get those.
What I'll just do, I'll just move the ramp pod into the floor.
Okay. I want people not to just come up with something randomly here, but I want you to concentrate and see if a year comes to mind. Everybody who's around the table, people not around the table here.
Unknown.
Okay, people that are around the table. I want to see if we can get something similar. If we all seem to get the same thing, so just spend 10 seconds thinking of a year.
Just think I've got prayer.
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 Subliminally.
Should we pray?
Fighting.
The year that I'm getting is 1836. Oh, what yourself up. Yeah.
Didn't really couldn't really think about anything to be honest.
1840, right?
1868.
1884.
Do any of those years have any meaning to anybody who is in this room at the moment?
A pact.
A pact.
Can you give us a few examples of things that have happened to you, Chris, when you've been using this machine before?
We often use this as, and we go into, ironically, with it being somewhere associated with the police. We've found in one occasion that we kind of use this as an investigative technique. You go along with the drips and it forms a story. We found that over at Hadlow Road train station, where between this app and a different one, they correlated with each other and they led us on a story about a female. So sometimes the words, as it's coming through, it's, you know, it can lead you on that story.
So see, we'll go through the words that we've had so far. So that would be, little, threat, Sam, fall, Roger, graveyard, memories here, scarlet, unknown, fighting, a pact, what was the last?
It's ancient.
Didn't get to the last one. What was the last one that I said?
Draining.
Drain, what it was. And now we just added, it's ancient. John? I just felt like saying that, Roger. I don't know why. I mean, Roger's a repute that you can think of around these parts.
Not at all, man. No. It's ancient and an interesting one, then. It's ancient.
What's ancient? Tell us about what's ancient. If there's somebody with us in this room, please.
Silent.
To be fair, Roy, when you're talking, I think that quite often.
You want us to remain silent?
Just a second, that's a different app. Doesn't speak the words, but it's a good way of seeing if we get any similar responses through two different apps.
Stroke.
Stroke.
Silent. Stroke. Are we talking about somebody that went silent as a result of a stroke here? Or was that person's name Roger?
Interesting though, I was talking about before, that a lot of the injuries that used to occur during the 1800s, especially when dockers and sailors used to fight, kicks to the head, which used to result in people dying from strokes. They didn't know what it was at the time, but now we know that was the case.
The word fighting did come up on.
Yeah, like hematomas, the brain and stuff basically causes a stroke.
I don't know what Scarlet's got to do with anything.
Witch.
Scarlet Witch. You said Scarlet and Witch came in. I'm getting a bit nervous there then. Witches. We have witches involved in this place here, Bridewell. Used to be. Sorry.
So it could be asking for another app that we have, which is called The Witch.
Have you got that?
Yes. Yeah, I can put that
Should we
one on.
activate that?
It's another audible app and it's extremely creepy. So
I thought Scarlet was a witch, that's all.
She's an avenger, isn't she?
She robbed Roger off the bed. So Scarlet's a witch.
Unless it was Roger, yeah, Roger did his bit.
Right, John, come back.
No, because I've got a coat there, mate, so I'm all right. Right, okay, just for today's note, what I'll do is, I'll ask the question first and then later.
yeah.
So why guys decided to set some additional equipment up. So I'll return to the main area. The guys will come up with another piece of equipment that we're going to be using. Adam, talk us through the next piece of equipment, if you would.
I'll let, well, it was Chris's app to be honest, but I'll just say that it's an app called The Witch. It is that, isn't it, Chris? The Witch?
It is, yeah.
Yes, and it speaks in reverse phonics. So if you do hear any words coming through, it does sound like nonsense and whispers, but we do get clear words that do come through, but the app does speak and go and work in reverse phonics.
Okay. Right, well, let's see the answer to the question. Let's try and kind of pick up the kind of level a little bit here. Right. There's somebody with us in this room. And we want to know if there's somebody of a bad reputation, somebody that wasn't a likeable character, maybe that isn't pleased with the fact that we are here in this building now. If that is you, do something to get our attention. Do something to get our attention. Not that, which is the women outside. Or maybe they can hear what's going on because they're certainly getting our attention. Do something for us. Go on.
Right, music? Yes. Sweet head.
There's a spooky piece of equipment, and that is strange, isn't it? Female? That was with a female, wasn't it?
The thing that got me in Heather's way, like, kind of answered as soon as you finished asking the question. That's kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like,
Well, it's still funny again. Maybe there's a woman here that was brought in against her will or something like that. Somebody that wasn't happy to be in this place, and I know the list would probably be quite extensive. If there's somebody here that falls into that category, then activate the machine again if you would, please.
Here they are.
Here they are.
No respect.
Hold it. We're not bothered that you're here, so you're not scaring us. So if that is the intention, you're going to have to do something much better than that. Come on, make yourself known to us. Wow, what the hell was that?
That sounds nice.
Possibly said first there, right on 2 cameras.
There's a bit of back there. Well, that is
that's nice.
machine, but that's
Well, that's what makes it fun, though. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, I know the night was young, but I think from the recording budget we're going to wrap up. Let's get some thoughts from people around the table at the moment. I mean, obviously, we've done this in double quick time, as it were. Adam, you'd be here for considerably much longer. I mean, what's your initial thoughts of being here at the Bridewell?
I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic place, fantastic building, and you just want to see more, go in every little nook and cranny and see what it's got to offer, but an absolutely brilliant start, and you just want to get your teeth into the rest of the building now.
Yeah. How long would you want to spend there? Would you want to do a full overnight, and would you, Chris?
Well, ideally, yeah. I mean, the previous pub ones we've done was during lockdown, so it was good promotion for the pubs for that time, but obviously you need an empty pub to be able to allow it to settle, and then you can set up various cameras and these bits of equipment. There's no outside noise, there's no inside noise, and you capture more, so it would be an absolutely amazing place to come back and basically spend the night, yeah.
Might be worthwhile from Chris Cannon's Hidden Liverpool's perspective here to see whether or not Alexa Rogers' name appears up in any journal relevant to this pub, perhaps.
It's very difficult to find research about police stuff back in those days, but I could have a look. The thing I found most interesting though is, I mean, it could be that we're simply imprinting on what we want, but some of the things questions we've asked, some of the answers we got, and the relevance, the answers were kind of creepy. And that app, the way it kind of responded to you asking the question, only when you asked the question and came back with some weird things. I mean, that is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a skeptic, a healthy skeptic, I say. Some things have happened to me in the past which I can't explain, But this is incredibly interesting, yeah.
Final word to you then, you see, okay tonight, has this whetted your appetite to be further investigating this place from a paranormal point of view?
I might have a couple of drinks now just to have but I think the thing that sort of interested me the most is, since I've always associated this building with men, because you associate the police would have been men at that time, and generally the people who would have been locked up would have been men, and I think that certainly that piece at the end there, and certainly the other thing before talking about Scouse, it looks that there may be more women in here than we previously realised.
You might be right. I don't have any cheese before you go to bed tonight. Make it worse. But listen, guys, Haunted Scouse, much appreciation to you, Chris Cannon from Hidden Liverpool, and of course for Fiona here from the Bridewell. So I hope you've enjoyed our little paranormal investigation, albeit a short one, here into the Bridewell.